For years, we've all been told that multi-factor authentication is pretty much the ultimate shield for our digital lives. But what if I told you there's an attack that just walks right past it? Not by breaking the lock, but by stealing the key after you've already opened the door.
Think about it. You've done everything you're supposed to. You've got a strong password and you approve that push notification on your phone every single time you log in. So you're completely secure, right? Well, the game has changed. And today, we're going to break down exactly how.
So here's the plan. We'll start with why MFA became our digital fortress in the first place. Then, we'll get into the attack that gets around it by stealing your session. After that, we'll look at the next-gen defense designed to stop it, find the cracks in that new armor, and finally, talk about what real security actually looks like today.
Okay, so first things first. Let's set the stage. Multi-factor authentication, or MFA, it's the hero of our story, or at least it used to be.
You know, the concept is simple and it's brilliant. Even if a hacker steals your password, who cares? It's totally useless without that second piece of the puzzle. You know, a code from your phone, a fingerprint, that push notification. It became the gold standard for a really good reason. It worked, and it worked really well. But of course, every hero has a villain. And in this story, it's a really sophisticated attack called Adversary-in-the-Middle, or AiTM, phishing. And trust me, this is not your average everyday phishing attempt.
Okay, so think of it like this. Traditional phishing, it's like a sloppy fake copy of a famous painting. If you look even a little bit closely, you can spot the flaws. You know, misspellings, weird links. But an ATM attack, that's totally different. It's like looking at the original painting through a perfectly hidden two-way mirror. The attacker puts a proxy server, which is just a go-between computer they control, smack dab between you and the real website. So you see the actual login page. You're not on a fake site, you're on the real one with a silent thief watching every move.
And this right here shows you just how devastating these attacks are in the real world. In one case, an employee got phished. On day 1, boom, the attacker was in their mailbox. But by day 3, they weren't just visiting. They had set up shop by registering a malicious app to create a permanent backdoor. And just 2 weeks later, they used that access to launch their own massive phishing campaign. The speed of escalation is just incredible.
So here's the key thing to understand. The attackers have changed their target. They figured out that your password isn't even the real prize anymore.
No, they're after this, the session token. Just think of it like a digital key card to a hotel room. After you use your password and approve that MFA prompt, the service gives your browser this session token. This little token proves you're authenticated and it lets you get into all your apps without having to log in over and over again. It is literally the key to the kingdom.
So let's walk through how they actually steal it. First, the lure. You get a phishing link. You click it. That's step 2, proxy. You're now connected to the attacker's server, but you have no idea. Step 3 is the relay. Their server shows you the actual Microsoft or Google login page. So you put in your password, you approve the MFA prompt on your phone, and the attacker's proxy just relays all of that to the real service. And then, here's the most important part, theft. The real service thinks everything is legit and issues a valid session token. But because the attacker is sitting right there in the middle, they intercept it and steal it. And now, access. They can use that stolen token on their own machine, log in as you, and your MFA never gets another prompt. Why? Because they're already inside.
Okay, so that's the attack. And yeah, it's pretty scary. But of course, the good guys are fighting back. So let's look at the next-gen defense that's designed to stop this whole thing. Token protection.
The big idea here is actually pretty clever. It's to make that stolen session token completely useless. Microsoft's token protection tries to do this by essentially gluing the session token to the specific device it was issued on. How does it work? Well, it uses something called a primary refresh token, or a PRT. See, when you register your work computer with your company's network, it gets a special PRT that's cryptographically tied to your device's actual hardware. It becomes the anchor for all your secure sessions.
And this comparison makes it super clear. A normal, unbound token is like a master key. If a thief gets it, they can use it on any door from any location. But a protected, device-bound token, that's like a unique key that's specially cut to fit only one specific lock, the device it was created on. If an attacker steals it, it's just a useless piece of metal to them. It won't work anywhere else.
So, that sounds like a perfect solution, right? Problem solved? Well, as is almost always the case in cybersecurity, there's a twist. Even this new, shiny armor has some cracks.
As the security researchers at Cyberdom so perfectly put it, this new defense is really more of a speed bump than a roadblock. In other words, it definitely makes the attacker's job harder, but it does not make it impossible.
So where are the weak spots? Well, for one, if malware is already running on your so-called trusted device, it can still abuse that protected session. And even more importantly, this protection only works for specific modern applications. An attacker could, for example, trick your system into using an older version of an app, one from before it supported token protection, and the feature becomes completely useless. On top of that, browser sessions aren't protected yet, and a lot of virtual devices are exempt, creating these huge blind spots for attackers to aim for.
And here's the reality check. Security researchers actually put this to the test. They managed to pull out what was supposed to be a protected token for OneDrive from a Windows machine, and they successfully reused it from a completely different computer running macOS. The big takeaway here? If an attacker can get their hands on the token, replay is still very much on the table.
And that brings us to the most important point of all this. There is no single magic bullet. There's no one perfect tool. Real, effective security is all about building a continuous, layered defense. It's a process, not a product.
A truly resilient strategy has to cover all three of these bases. For people, it means training your users to actually spot these super sophisticated lures. For process, it means auditing things like app consent policies and mailbox rules. And for technology, it means moving towards truly phishing-resistant MFA like FIDO2 keys and seriously beefing up your monitoring to spot the weird, anomalous behavior that tells you you've been compromised.
Okay, so let's wrap this all up. What do you absolutely need to remember? First, MFA is still crucial, but know that it can be bypassed. Second, the target has shifted. It's not about the password anymore, it's about the session token. Third, these new defenses like token protection are a good step, but they are not foolproof. And finally, the only real solution is a comprehensive, layered security strategy. That's the whole ballgame.
And that leaves us with one final and kind of scary thought. Attackers are now using these slick, professional phishing-as-a-service platforms to launch these attacks at a massive scale. They are industrializing their tools. So the question you really have to ask yourself is this: is your defense evolving just as fast?